Hello, I'm Christy Duncan. I'm delighted to be chatting today with Mridula Iyer, who's Head of Treasury and Trade Solutions at Citi, based in Mumbai. Welcome, Mridula.
Hey, Christy. Hi. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. Today, Mridula and I are going to be talking a little bit about many different topics, from India's digital transformation agenda and the impact that's had on the payments ecosystem, to ESG and innovation, and talking about fintechs and partnerships, a really hot topic these days. But Mridula, let's start with a little bit about your career journey and telling the audience about how you got to where you are and what you do today at Citi.
Thank you, Christy. So I joined Citi way back in 1996. Citi is my only employer, and the last 25 years with Citi has been awesome. Done multiple roles across various departments, and Citi offers that given the breadth of and the scope of their operations. So I've done operations, compliance, risk and control, sales, product, done it all. And today I am managing the Treasury and Trade Solutions business for South Asia, which is India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. Very interesting business, and I think it is at the center of all the digital transformation that is happening globally, because that's what we do. We do payments for a living. We manage the liquidity and working capital of our corporate and institutional clients. So not a single day without excitement. Christy, an amazing job, and it's been an amazing journey for me so far. So really privileged to be here. Thank you.
Well, what a great job, and covering such a really interesting market with over 1 billion people. What's not to love about that? Sounds fantastic. I want to talk about digitization initiatives, and we've got this really interesting but positive view. India's government-led digital transformation initiative. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it's impacted the payment ecosystem, and perhaps what role Citi has played in this digitization transformation?
It's been an absolutely fascinating journey, I would say, for India, because in the last decade or so, I would say that we leapfrogged from being a very paper-intensive, cash-intensive economy to a digital economy. And that has been led by the government. Several digital initiatives that were driven by the government, not just in the world of payments, but across the board. And I think it is successful because it was done in a very calibrated manner. The first thing that the government did was to give a digital identity to every person in the country. It is called as the Aadhaar number. So that became like the foundation of creating the whole digital infrastructure. And then they went on to create a whole digital ecosystem which was connected through APIs. So very interestingly, they tried to create a massive digital infrastructure wherein a lot of information, payments, everything could be accessed at a click of a button through the API mechanism. And I must say that payments has been a very large beneficiary of this whole digital drive. Payments in India has grown like even 60% in the last year or so. And UPI, it's like a world-class payment system now. It is on your mobile, very easy to use, real-time, 24/7, and the payment happens in like a few seconds. It is one of the state-of-art payment infrastructure that I have seen in my 25 years of banking. And UPI, the popularity of UPI has grown so tremendously over the last few years. It went from being almost nothing to now being about 4 billion transactions. So the digital infrastructure payment ecosystem in the country has really leapfrogged over the last few years. And I think we now have different channels of payment for whether you want to do high value payments, you want to do low value payments, or you just want to do instant payments. You have a channel for all of that. So huge choice for the consumer. Most of it can be initiated through your device. So convenience, ease of settlement, interoperable, and very secure. So I think what the government and the central bank have really done is to create a digital ecosystem which has really pushed the digital agenda in the country and made it easier for all the consumers to get onto the digital platform. So yeah, I mean, it's been very exciting last few years for the country.
Wow, I'm jealous. It sounds like a really fantastic and exciting journey, a great place to be at the moment. This is a really interesting transformation, and I want to talk about the impact on financial inclusion. Clearly India has had in the past a large population of unbanked and underserved people when it comes to financial services. Can you talk about how this whole digitization movement, if you will, has impacted some of the financial inclusion aspects of the population?
I think the whole digitization drive has helped financial inclusion in a very large way in the country. The digital identity that I spoke about, which is the Aadhaar number, in fact, made it possible for everyone in the country to have access to banking facilities. So you now had a digital identity which could be used for KYC purposes, gave you access to loans and other banking services. Just in the last few years, under the Jan Dhan initiative, as we called it in India, almost 400 million banking accounts got opened. So that is a number of people who came into the banking enclosure, if I can call it so, and they got access to basic banking facility. So huge push on the financial inclusion side. And I guess even the way Citi has played a role in this whole digitization journey is that we have helped our customers leverage the digital infrastructure which is available to help serve their ecosystem better, their consumers, their vendors, their suppliers. Also, Christine, in the last few years, if you see, the business models of our clients has also undergone a severe change, right? And clients have found it difficult to adapt to the changing consumer needs and the changing business models. I guess what Citi has been able to do because of our presence in the country for so many years and the fact that we are connected to all the payment channels which is available here, we have been able to stitch solutions for them, which has helped them in doing faster payments to their customers, in doing faster payments to their suppliers, or facilitating faster collections of monies from their customers. So I guess what Citi has been able to do through our solutions is to bring together the digital infrastructure that is available in the country, the technology that we have, that Citi has invested so much in globally, which is state of the art, and put together solutions that meet the growing needs of the clients. So I guess it's been an interesting journey with the clients and with the ecosystem, wherein we have Citi in its own way has been able to promote digital inclusion and digital growth in the country.
What a fantastic journey. And it's so, it's wonderful that this digitization initiative has really been able to be pushed out to benefit the customers on the consumer side, on the corporate and commercial side, the business side, both when paying as well as receiving payments. That's fantastic. What do you think that we can look forward to in the future when it comes to payments in India, Mridula?
That's a very interesting question because, and a very tough one as well, because maybe 5 to 7 years ago, none of us would have anticipated that payments was going to take such a sharp turn in the way it has turned out. But yeah, it's still interesting to kind of speculate as to what's going to happen in the future, including things like, are we going to do payments in the metaverse finally, right? So that is something interesting for debate and discussion. But I think in the immediate future, what we can expect, at least in the Indian ecosystem, is probably, more robustness of the digital infrastructure because though we have a lot of people on the digital platform, there is still a percentage of the population which is outside of the digital infrastructure. It is important to build new features, new rails, so that we can get the unbanked, the uninitiated in digital ways of engaging, if I can call them so, onto the digital infrastructure. So there are lots of thoughts and initiatives underway from the central bank and the government to kind of build features that can get this population onto the digital infrastructure. I think the central bank is looking at the CBDC or central bank digital currency as a form of digital payment for the future, which is interesting to see how things will pan out. There are several initiatives underway to connect cross-border payments between two payment infrastructures in different countries so that we can facilitate real-time and instantaneous cross-border settlement. And of course, the possibilities of whether you can use blockchain for faster settlements, I think those are unending, and there is a lot of debate and discussion around the utility of blockchain as we go along. But I guess these are some of the things that we can look forward to in the Indian ecosystems, payments being more robust, payments being more widely available to a larger set of the population, and the payments being easy, frictionless, and kind of easy to use as we go along. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming our way in the future.
And it's a future we're all looking forward to. Absolutely. So there's so much happening here and it's all so exciting. I want to talk about this innovation. And we know that innovation is fantastic. It can benefit so many people in so many ways. But banking and innovation are two words that we don't always hear together. I want to ask you, Mridula, can you share your thoughts on the future of banks, especially when it comes to innovation and fintech?
Yeah, that's like my favorite topic, Christy, because I think it drives so much ideation and it challenges us in a great way every day, right? But I think things have changed a lot for banks, and it's no longer banks can be divorced from innovation, right? Because it's basic license to survive, as I see. Especially the dynamic environment that we are living in. Everything around us is changing so rapidly. And technology is driving so much of that change, right? If banks cannot have their arms around what is going to happen in the future, how a consumer needs going to change, what is it that corporates need as we go into the future, it'll become very difficult for us to be able to provide adequate value to our clients. And more, we can see that banks recognize this need. Banks now have innovation labs. Some of them have full-fledged innovation labs, almost like how pharma companies have R&D centers. They have designated teams looking at innovation. They have chief innovation officers. Even Citi has, in the transaction banking space in TTS, has two innovation labs in Dublin and Singapore, where we are constantly working on new prototypes of how the future solutions should be. So I think the future for banks is obviously to embrace innovation in a big way. It has to become mainstream, just like the way we do other banking services. And only then we will have the ability to meet the needs of our clients and stay ahead of the future trends. Otherwise, the world will change around us and we will no longer be relevant. And that, I guess, that recognition, that realization is there with most of the banks. And wherever possible, we are taking help from fintechs. We are collaborating with them where it helps us to provide better value to our clients. But most banks on their own as well are looking at innovation as an independent vertical and spending enough time, money, and resources on innovation and innovative solutions for the future.
Well, it sounds like an exciting future. I'm really looking forward to it at so many levels. I want to switch gears a little bit, Mridula, and talk about ESG. Sustainability seems to be the talk of the town, with global corporations having ESG agendas and targets, and global organizations, of course, like Citi, often the forerunners. Can you share some of the initiatives that Citi has taken in India in the context of ESG?
Yeah, another very interesting topic, Christy, that is slowly gaining awareness. I wouldn't say that everyone is fully seized of what we need to do under the ESG agenda or what it even means for them. But I can see that most companies, at least the large ones, have set out ESG goals for themselves, right? Citi also under James' leadership has set out a net zero emission target by 2050. So we all have goals now for ESG delivery. In the India context, I would say that still a lot of work needs to be done just to create the awareness about ESG in the ecosystem, whether with small corporates, large corporates. What we have been doing in the City India TTS world is essentially we want to approach ESG with two or three lenses. One is that how can we, with our expertise that we have and the global expertise from ESG, how can we create more awareness amongst our corporates on why an ESG priority is essential, why they should have a KPI around ESG. And towards that, we've done a couple of things. We've created collateral that explains the concept. We have gotten experts who can come and talk to some of the clients on how they can go about setting their ESG goals. We've also created an ESG dashboard, which helps them convert their digital initiatives into measurable carbon emission save numbers. So we are helping them quantify if they pursue certain goals, what is the benefit that they can see? And they can actually, they've quantified it in number sense by using international standards of conversion. So I guess the first step is to create awareness amongst customers. And parallelly, we are also trying to create products and solutions which are ESG compliant and can help our clients meet their ESG goals. The first and the immediate one that we have done is in the trade finance space, wherein we have given trade loans to customers which are ESG compliant. We are also trying to do financing to their suppliers which are ESG compliant. So financing is the first way in which we have started trying to create this awareness amongst customers and trying to get them to comply with some ESG goals. And I think it's a continuous process. It's very nascent, this concept. It's just being understood by people. So a long way to go, but at least we have started on the journey. At least our personal ambition is that in the next 4 to 5 years, at least 50% of our trade lending book should be ESG compliant. But let's see where we go with that. But at least we have the intention and the effort is there. But as I said, a lot of people have to come together. Another important point is policy and regulation. I guess a lot of acceleration will come if you have a policy framework or you have a regulatory framework under which banks and corporates alike are required to have some ESG goals. The reason why I'm saying this, especially in the India context, we've always had goals set given to banks for priority sector lending, which is lending to certain areas like agriculture, small businesses, etc. Wherein a portion of our lending has to go to these segments. That has really helped in increasing lending to these segments, which otherwise may not have had easy access to bank finance. So there is a way to emulate the same success that we've had in the priority sector space by forming some regulation and a guiding framework in the ESG space as well. But I guess lots of work is underway and there is thought around this, and all of us need to do collectively more work to make ESG a real goal and a real possibility for clients.
Well, that's so important, and it's great that Citi's leadership is really helping to promote that agenda across the industry with your creating awareness, helping companies with their dashboards, creating ESG compliant products that are, certainly helpful to get it out into the market, but also the policies and regulations, both within the organization, but nationally, helping us to get to where we really need to be. Thank you for sharing that. It's been such a really interesting discussion, Mridula, and I want to sadly conclude the discussion with a question that I ask all of our Pause for Payments guests, and that is, if you were giving career advice to some of the rising stars in our audience, what would that be?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I think we're also just concluded the International Women's Day week, so it is something that I have personally given a lot of thought to as to what should we collectively do to kind of work on the goals that we have set for ourselves as far as diversity is concerned. But just a couple of things that has worked for me and I would like to share with everyone is that I think often we tend to get too critical or too harsh with ourselves. We set goals which are difficult and we really push ourselves to get to that, which is good. But I would just urge all my colleagues to ensure that you do not burn out in the process or you do not start getting frustrated in the process. So it is not necessary to be too harsh upon yourself or be very self-critical. The second thing I would say is that try and create or try and cultivate a skill that also becomes your brand and you stand for that, because that is a great way for you to get visibility, for you to stand out in what otherwise can be a very competitive environment. So like, for example, get to know more about payments, be an expert in payments or crypto or blockchain or whatever it is, right? Or any of the other social causes. Try and find something that you can associate yourself with and you can stand out. The other thing that I always urge all my women leaders and anyone else who I've worked with is that I think there is a responsibility on each one of us who has made it through the journey to be able to support others who need help and who have just started on the journey. So always try and see if there are people whom you can reach out to and support and help them, because you don't want them revisiting, reinventing everything that you have gone through. And the last point that want to make, and this is a new thought which has been coming in my mind, is around male allyship. I think for long we have been trying to take this journey ahead all by ourselves. But it is very important to have male allies in the process, because they are the ones who will be a major force in bringing about the change. So, as women leaders, I guess we could take it upon ourselves to create male allies who truly believe in the process and the power of women and their ability to be very successful in the workplace. And if that happens, I think it's just a force accelerator and we will get to the destination that all of us want to get to much faster. So these are some of my thoughts for all my women colleagues who are listening.
Well, these are absolutely really, really fantastic insights, Madrula. I love that. Be easy on yourself. Don't be too harsh. Often women are very critical and demanding of themselves. And just trying to recognize that and not over expect too much. Developing your own skills to build that personal brand is really important, and paying it forward to other women to help them climb that corporate ladder as well is hugely important. But I think the male allyship is really key, and we've seen it this year with a theme from International Women's Day, the break the bias theme. And, we at Women in Payments did a whole panel session on International Women's Day, March 8th, with 4 male speakers talking about how do we break that bias? How do we help women to succeed and become the leaders that we know they can be across the payments industry and beyond? So very sage words of advice. Thank you, Madrula.
Thank you, Christy.
This has been a fabulous discussion. We've gone in so many different places talking about the digital agenda of India as they move into digitization across payments and all industry sectors. We've talked about financial inclusion, so much opportunity in India, and we can only hope for more progress. We've talked about the future of payments going from, where we were last decade, last century, pre-COVID, it seems, to the new exciting world of real-time payments and central bank digital currencies and financial inclusion and more robust digital infrastructures. Not to mention, where we're going with ESG, I think in India and around the world. All really fantastic topics. Madrula, thank you so much for this discussion. It's been really insightful.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you for having me here. And I think you're doing a wonderful job with the Women's in Payment. Really, truly inspiration for all of us. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank our audience as well for listening as we explore the exciting world of payments from around the world, from exciting women who have fabulous jobs like Madrula and other fantastic women from around the world of payments. Thanks, everybody.